24 frames per second, 48 frames per second, 120 frames per second. What the hell's up with these different frame rates and which one should I even use? If that's something you've thought to yourself, then you're not alone. If you're looking to shoot your own footage, either on your new shiny DSLR or even your smartphone, then one of the first things you would want to pay attention to is the frame rate that your camera is being set to. So in this video, we'll do the groundwork and help you understand what frame rates are to begin with, why do they play such an important role in your videos, and how can you decide which one should you be using for your videos. So without wasting a lot of time, let's jump right in. Let's start with what frame rate is. Despite the common notion that while you're watching a video or a motion picture, you're not really watching a video, but a series of images and frames that are placed one after the other at a speed that is fast enough for your eyes to not be able to differentiate between them to create the perception of motion. Most movies you see are actually nothing but still consecutive images of 24 or more than 24 frames per second. The frame rate of the video is simply a method to denote the speed at which frames play per second. So a frame rate of 24 FPS indicates that every second of a runtime for the video has 24 frames per second. Now an obvious derivation from this is that higher the frame rate, the more difficult it gets to distinguish individual frames from each other, which means the smoother the viewing experience for the motion picture. For instance, this is how this video would look like at 8 frames per second. Here's what it would look like at 16 frames per second, still slightly rough around the edges. And this is what it would look like at 24 frames per second, which is what most movies and cinematic videos are shot in. Why 24 FPS and not 30 FPS or 48 FPS? Because 24 FPS was just fast enough to create a seamless audio and video experience for the viewer without having to waste any film on the video that's being shot on. Today, most video creators would shoot at 30 FPS to have a little more smoothness over the footage, and it has become the standard for digital videos. It's also what we shoot all of our videos in. In fact, if you edit your video on InVideo, your video will automatically be exported at 30 FPS by default. But this goes without saying that there are still some video creators who swear by 24 FPS since it was the industry standard for the longest time, and that should work just fine. Now what happens when you increase the frame rate? You will increase the amount of detailing that gets captured in every frame. But for the naked eye, this won't really cause a lot of difference unless you want to slow down or speed up the footage for cinematic effects. Let me say this again. Increasing your frame rate beyond 30 FPS will not make a major difference to your audience's viewing experience if you're looking to capture the video at a normal speed and display it to your audience at the same speed. Think of it this way. 1 second of a 24 FPS video file will hold 24 still images. 1 second of a 120 FPS file, on the other hand, will hold 5 times that many images. When multiplied by the video's length, it's easy to see how having more frames per second will cause the size of the file to balloon. So then, this brings us to the question, when do we shoot at a higher frame rate and what inherent benefit does it bring to the final edit? Let's take a step back and look at the two tenets that make up for the viewing experience of any video. How is the video shot and how is the video played back? So when we were talking about how movies have a frame rate of 24 FPS, for example, what we meant is that the video is shot at 24 FPS, it's edited and rendered at 24 FPS, and the video is also played back at 24 FPS. However, what happens if you shoot your videos at 30 frames per second, but render it and play it back at 24 FPS itself? Sure, the footage shot will be smoother, but you won't be able to derive any value out of it. Because when you're editing it on the timeline, you will leave 1 out of every 5 frames that will bring the added smoothness to your footage. To truly showcase the smoothness of 30 FPS, you will need to shoot, edit, and play back the footage at 30 FPS. That's why frame rates play such an important role. You need to know what is the frame rate that you want your final output to be in. If you want it to be 30 FPS, you would shoot and edit it in 30 FPS. And if you want it to be 60 FPS, you would shoot and edit the video at 60 FPS. Now let's come back to exploring what will happen if you shoot the video at a higher frame rate than you want to edit it in. So let's say you shoot a video at 24 FPS, but then there is a segment in there that you want to show in slow motion. As you can see, the video actually seems quite choppy because there are not enough frames to give it that smooth motion. But if you shoot the footage at 120 FPS and then slow it down to 24 FPS, you will see that it still has enough frames per second to make the motion look super smooth, and hence, you can get a smooth slow-mo shot as a part of your video. If that made sense and you feel confident enough to explain this to your grandmother, give this video a like and let us know you got it in the comments below. And while you're commenting below, let me just be back and explain it to my grandmother.
20 minutes later.
Now let's explore the exact opposite scenario. What happens when you shoot the footage at a lower frame rate but edit and play back the footage at a higher frame rate? In this case, the frames of your video will play at a faster rate than what they were originally intended to be viewed at, and hence, the original footage will feel choppy and sped up. So why would video creators ever want to do that? The choppy effect can give your video a very vintage, old school look and feel that can seem perfect for a dream sequence or a flashback sequence. Okay, I know that was a lot to process, so let me just give you a quick recap so that you'll remember all this the next time you'll have to think of what frame rates you want to shoot or edit in. Think of frame rates across two key tenets. What frame rate are you shooting your video in? And what frame rate are you editing and exporting the video in? If you want the footage to play at a regular speed, shoot, edit, and render the footage at the same frame rate. 24 FPS or 30 FPS should be enough. If you want the footage to play in a slow-mo smoothly, shoot at a higher frame rate and edit and render at a lower frame rate. If you want to shoot the footage to play in high speed, shoot at a lower frame rate and edit and render at a higher frame rate. And with that, you know everything about frame rates and which one should you be using for your videos. If this was useful to you, please hit the subscribe button so that you don't miss out on our weekly videos on such video creation fundamentals. And do check out this next video where we dissect aspect ratios and help you pick out the right one for your footage. This is Christine from InVideo, and I will see you in the next one.